Welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz. I am your host, Baxter E. Hall. Welcome to my brain. Welcome to my frequency. Enter at your own risk. Today we have another episode of Mindfulness Mondays with my friend, Sharonda Simmons. Hello, Sharonda.
Hi.
Hello, welcome back. Sharonda is an equity and engagement consultant and also the founder of Thrive and Shine. So we've had a really good time with these. You've been providing such great info. I'm glad that we are back for another episode.
Me too.
So today's episode, we are going to talk about mindfulness for communities of color. It was a topic that you wanted to discuss. So tell me what your thoughts are around that and why is it so important?
I think that I've had a lot of different conversations with friends, particularly like Black women, women of color. And I think when we hear mindfulness, we go straight to yoga retreat, like vegan food, or these things that don't necessarily feel inclusive to people of color. But when you look at sort of like the definition of mindfulness in itself, it really is about taking time and opportunity to be present and to be with yourself. And so when I think about like racial injustice, when I think about sort of what is happening in different marginalized communities, that ability to be present, that ability to be with yourself is not just like a privilege, but it's a right. Like to me, mindfulness is essential and even more important for communities of color.
Yeah. So when you talk about being present, I totally get it, right? I mean, especially in this new virtual environment where so many of us are working from home, it's hard to sort of turn one off and turn the other one on, right?
Yep.
I mean, we talked about it. My daughter was using my laptop because her Chromebook was broken, but my question is, the being present. I get the strength in it, but what if your present state is overwhelming? It's like I have a tendency to sort of try to compartmentalize and sort of like detach from maybe what's present because I'm like, I don't want to deal with that right now. Like how should one handle like that type of scenario?
Yeah, so I don't think it has to be like totally sitting in everything that's happening all at once and trying to like solve or think about everything that's happening all at once. It could literally be sort of like, I think we mentioned it in one other episode, like pockets of peace, like that minute of just like thinking or being with myself, or sometimes like letting the emotions happen. I had a therapist that I went to once that she was like, the brain is sort of like a computer, like as a person, like every once in a while you need a reboot. But if you don't do the regular maintenance of like, cut it on, you cut it off, you update the software, that it gets scheduled. Or if you don't schedule it, at some point your computer is going to do it on its own. It's going to crash. It's going to do the reboot. And so honestly, even when we're in these spaces that are negative or really difficult, sometimes it is, you know what, I'm just going to go for a walk and I'm going to cry. And you do it for 15 minutes instead of thinking that, it's got to be this long, drawn out 2 hours of, sitting in sorrow or difficulty. It could just be honoring yourself and allowing yourself to feel how you feel. It also could be, I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to color, I'm going to draw, I'm going to, stretch and breathe. It can actually be mindfulness is I'm doing what I need to take care of myself, which may be separating from a particular situation. So it doesn't have to be that I'm going to a situation that doesn't feel good. It's I'm giving myself what I need and I'm actively aware of that. So when I think of mindfulness, that is what it is. That could be meditation for some people, that could be breathing, that could be, stretching, that could be calling someone who's going to make you feel better. And so it doesn't have to be that you like actively go into, I'm going to sit for 2 hours and think about what doesn't feel good or these difficult things that are happening. Or it could be that you're going to sit for a half an hour and you're going to think about the difficult stuff and you're going to let yourself feel whatever you feel without judgment, and so I think that's the part to me that I would maybe suggest for someone who's like, I have a lot going on and I don't want to sit with it. I don't think you have to be in all of it, but if you don't allow yourself that space and time in some capacity for it to happen, it will flow out. Thinking about that like computer reboot analogy.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I think that many times the reason that these things sort of go on and on is because we haven't just taken the time to really process it and try to kind of work through it. Right? We're pushing it aside, and eventually it's gonna show itself probably at not the time that you would like it. So like you said, just take a moment, take a walk and cry. I mean, that is probably would save a lot of angst and anxiety if you just kind of gave yourself that space. It is May, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? And I think that if people are, if you're feeling like you're going through something, you're overwhelmed, go find some help, seek some help. There's a number of resources out there for you, and it's tough, especially for people of color, because there's so much else that we've had to deal with besides pre-pandemic, right? So just whatever help that you feel like you need, you're not alone. There's other folks out there that are there that you can lean on for support, and also they have similar stories. So don't feel like you're out there on the island.
Yeah. And I think it could be, things that I like. I've used, there's an app called Liberate, which is like a meditation app. So it's got like breathing exercises, like music in the background. It's created by people of color for communities of color. And like even the app, they give like scholarships because they're trying to make it like accessible to people. There's Black Girl and Own, which is like something like, it's a platform that I research and like look into a lot, which is for like Black women and like spirituality and wellness. So, there's BetterHelp. I know I'm like plugging all these things. I know none of these people personally, but I do know, like I've recommended them, I've used them myself, but that's like an online tool. And I think finding people, whether it's in person, like your own community of family or friends, or sometimes that doesn't feel safe, so maybe it is like finding someone online or an online community, particularly now that there's so many different ways to access individuals, is really helpful. But I do think that mindfulness is important for communities of color because, even saying no to me is like an act of mindfulness, because I think that if that sometimes you need to set a boundary, that's mindfulness. It's being present with yourself and deciding in that moment, what do I need right now? I can't take this phone call. I can't do this thing for mom or for grandma. I need to actually give myself something. And so my no is going to help my mental health for the time being. That's mindfulness. And so, I think that there are different ways to think about it, but for communities where, there's, economic hardship or, there's oppression, all of these things that sort of plague us at disproportionately high numbers, it's really necessary to sometimes do those things that other people may consider little or take for granted to push back on that. Like I get to say no because I don't have to be like superwoman, or like you get to cry as a Black man, even though society has said that, men of color have to be super strong, and so I think that stuff is really important.
Yeah. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at www.thriveandshinenow.com, and that's N as in Nancy, so thriveandshinenow.com. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Sharonda Simmons, LinkedIn, Sharonda Simmons, and then I also have a business page, Thrive and Shine, on Facebook and on Instagram, and it's spelled the same way.
Cool. Well, this was another great episode. Sharonda, thank you for your time and looking forward to sharing more Mindfulness Mondays with you and the rest of the audience.